Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more.
You're listening to The Man That Can Project with Lachlan Stuart, a global movement created to empower men and open up what's really going through their minds by having real and raw conversations about life's unique challenges and our individual ways of processing it all. Welcome to The Man That Can Project.
All right, welcome back, gents. My name is Lachlan Stuart and I'm your host, along with being a men's performance coach, focused on helping you to take your life to that next level through my coaching and programs that are available, along with all of these episodes with our incredible guests and a couple of solo sessions from myself. I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for being a valued member of this community. I know, switching your phone on, investing some time to listen to what myself and the valued guests on here have to share with you is, a sacrifice from something else you could be doing in your life. So I highly value that, and, it doesn't go unnoticed. One program that I want to share with you today before we dive into today's episode is the Inner Circle program. This program is incredible and it is available to men from all over the world. Okay, and currently we have a 7-day free trial, so you can dive in as if you were a member, check out what it's all about, have a yarn with a few of the men in there and see what it's all about and how you can create momentum for your life. You can even get access to the 12-week game plan, which is available there, that you can fill out and, start creating some huge momentum in your life by setting that out and following the process. But it's really inspiring to see dads, men, brothers, fathers, sons, all the roles that these gentlemen play at a higher game. They're building their confidence back up. They're learning how to communicate better. They're understanding the 8 areas better and how they can, or what the next steps are for them to take their life to that next level, and how that specific area is going to have a huge ripple effect in their life. So it's super exciting. It's super empowering, and it's definitely something that I wholeheartedly believe in. It's something I'm highly active in. So the more active you are and the more you utilize it, the more you can get out of it. But once again, it's not for everyone. It's only for those of you who feel like you are ready and are actually going to commit to study and apply what we speak about and what we learn, and just get involved in the community and the conversation. Enough from me, gents. Let's dive into the episode. And I look forward to... Okay, gents, welcome back to another episode of the Man That Can Project podcast. This is episode 252, and I am very excited for today's guest. I've been meaning to get you on for a very, very long time, Sean. So the guest sitting across the computer screen from me today is Sean Coffin. He's the founder of the Modern Bloke. Now, if you aren't following him, head over to Instagram and give him a quick follow. The Modern Bloke, he pumps out incredibly engaging content and I believe it's thought-provoking content that really opens great discussion. I would probably go there and so much more, but it's a community that encourages and empowers blokes to be more comfortable with their emotions and discussing their mental health and bloke culture, which is what I love and I really relate to. I'm a bit awkward and I'd consider myself quite blokey. Obviously you've gone through the normal ups and downs of life, like a lot of us, which is awesome, but you've gone on to achieve some incredible things, which we're going to discuss today. But before we dive in, Sean, how you going, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks. And thanks for being here. Look forward to the discussion as well, and following your stuff. It's definitely aligned, which is great.
Yeah, definitely great to have you on here. So, mate, give us a bit of a background on how you obviously got to, becoming the founder of the Modern Bloke and everything you've done up to this point. Give us a background on who Sean is and everything like that.
Well, I mean, as you said, a bit of an ochre and that, and I just consider myself an everyday bloke. Grew up with all the stereotypical, doing bloke stuff, playing sport, good mates type thing. And part of the issue with the backstory is that, there's no real big momentous issues that had happened. It was just the trials and tribulations of everyone growing up. But I think I thought a lot more about it as I was going through them. And then one of the benefits was going through them. I ended up having mates that would then talk to me and ask about questions when they're going through stuff. And it could just be, so I went through a divorce a couple of years ago, grew up with divorced parents, went through domestic violence as a receiver, I guess, victim of it through relationships. So being quite vocal with it, people ask me about it. Built a lot of resilience from doing the inner work, and then thought, okay, well, I'll start putting all that stuff out onto social media, and people resonated with it. So I just thought I'd try and help people with it.
Mate, that's awesome. And I know you say you're just everyday average bloke with stories, but I've never experienced the domestic violence or anything like that, or been through a divorce yet. So for me, it's all interesting stuff. And I know there are a lot of blokes, especially that follow along in the Man That Can project community, that are going through divorces or relationship challenges at the moment, and maybe also have been, on the receiving end of domestic violence as well. But let's take it back to the divorce, mate. So, because I know you're happily engaged now and you've got a kid on the way, which is, congratulations, very, very exciting. And I can't wait to, watch that journey unfold for you. But going back, how the divorce, what was that whole experience like for you? And if you want to give sort of a rundown.
Yeah, look, it was a bit of a shock. I was only married for 10 months and went through a lot of emotional issues that I think everyone goes through. Your grief, your loss. It really played out in my mind, in my head. But what I did is I learned a lot from it. And I guess I've been through other stuff throughout my life and learnt from them. So I actually built up a lot of resilience. And that was one of the reasons that I wanted to start the Modern Bloke, is to kind of like give those tools and tips to guys so that they can build up their resilience for when they go through these things in life, not if. And some of the challenges was failure. So, you've got an achievement is, being married, mid-30s, early 30s, and having that fall apart was quite confronting for my identity as a guy. Then there was the whole issues through separation and how to do it, where I know a lot of guys struggle with that loss and kind of the emotional attachment to that, because they haven't really done any work for it. And I actually bounced back really good from my divorce because I had done a lot of the work, and I was comfortable talking to people about the mental health issues that I had from those struggles. Even through work, I was quite open with my boss at work and just said, look, mate, there are going to be days that I can't get out of bed. And he was quite open to that and quite responsive to that. That just made the whole journey and the whole process a lot easier.
Why do you feel that was easy for you to be open? Because I know that's one of the things that, ultimately cripples a lot of us blokes, is we don't want to talk about what we're experiencing. Why do you feel, or, I guess what led you to be able to be more comfortable with that?
It's that resilience of, I grew up with just a mum and an older sister. So I was quite in touch with my feminine side. And really it was until I started kind of playing football that I really experienced a lot of that masculine culture. So being in touch with my feelings, being able to communicate them, was something that I grew up with. Through the masculine culture, I was then felt that I shouldn't do that. So that was quite confusing. But then probably going through and doing the work, probably late 20s, mid 20s, I was just said, this is me and I'm going to be comfortable with it. I'm going to talk about my mental health issues. I'm going to talk about issues that I'm doing, and I'm going to be vulnerable. And there was a long period of time where that still wasn't accepted. And by then I would have people then messaging me and contacting me and saying, oh, wow, you spoke about this. I'm going through similar. So really, when I went through, it was a very traumatic experience for me, the divorce. It wasn't something I had to then try and do it then. And I think a lot of guys that want to do stuff, or people in general, they wait until the thing's gone wrong before they start doing something, before they start learning to open up about, talk about their emotions and stuff. And whereas if you actually do it when things are going well, you set yourself up better. Just talking to my friends, being honest with them, they were so supportive. And the honest thing is, on my first date with my now fiance, she, look, it was a bit of an interrogation. And one of the things she did say was, what was something you learned from the marriage? And I actually said that when everything was going great, all my mates were there. They were, they were supportive, they were happy, they were everything like that. When things then fell apart and things really weren't going great, they were there. They were. I was able to continue talking to them about stuff. I didn't feel like I had to hide it, and I was very open and vulnerable with them, and it was scary as hell. But they were then supportive. They were all got around me. They were all messaging me. I'd message them at like 2:00 in the morning. They'd be responding type thing. So it was scary being vulnerable. But what I found was that these are blokes that I played footy with the whole time. I never really had the deep conversations, but they were there for me. And that's what I want to kind of get out to the culture and the community, is that guys are pretty fucking awesome at doing this shit. We just don't really give them the opportunity to do it. So yeah, my mates were amazing getting around me.
That's fucking amazing, man. And definitely the perfect example. It's interesting, as you were mentioning, like it really does take for the wheels to fall off, or for us blokes to hit rock bottom before we do question the behaviors and the way of thinking that we've had up until that point, and we realize that maybe that stuff doesn't work. And I think that's why the work that you're doing is so important, because it's like you said, we do it for fitness, right? Like even fit people continue to train. If life's good, if emotionally, financially, mentally, all these your relationships are going well, it doesn't mean you stop working on them. You got to still continue to maintain those same routines and continuing to challenge yourself and develop and grow, because when stuff does go wrong, and it will fucking go wrong, because I can guarantee you when you were getting married, you didn't think you'd be getting a divorce, or you weren't going into a marriage going, all right, I'm going to get divorced 10 months later. So
not at all.
Yeah, so we need to keep in mind that everything, as much as we want it to be definite and absolute and never changing, chances are at some point it's gonna. So we need to we need to practice.
Exactly.
You go, bro.
And that's where the definite is that things do go wrong, and it doesn't have to be divorce. And this is where I say with a lot of my story is that they're not necessarily bad things that go wrong, but they're things that affect everyone. It could just be a relationship breakup. It could be the loss of a pet, the loss of a friend, the loss of a family member. It could just be a struggle of something, an injury for sport, for instance, where if you don't address it early on and you don't have those coping skills, then it's just going to spiral and get worse. And that's what happens with guys, because if we don't have that as a culture to go, I always say, we don't have the culture to just go, things aren't going great. What we do is we just say, yeah, no, they're good, until all of a sudden they're bad.
Yeah.
And that's when that's that rock bottom you talk about and everything. And if we had spoken more about when they weren't that great, then they probably wouldn't all get to be bad.
Yeah, 100%. And do you think, obviously we were chatting offline or had a few messages back and forth around the fact that, when you were similar in your early 20s and myself, that we didn't have that deep level of thinking to be able to, I guess, bring awareness into your life around these different issues that we were facing. And it wasn't until, one of the things that you're really passionate about doing is getting men to think deeper, right? And that, having those deeper conversations where we ask ourselves better questions, we make ourselves come up with better answers, it completely changes the way we can think, act, and behave. But it's not, I didn't grow up in the environment where deep thinking as such was really a thing. It was always, as you mentioned, in the particular cultures that you grow up in. It might be about football. I'm not hurting. There's nothing wrong in my life. I'm good, even though on the inside I'm struggling like massively. But it's just then, how do we continue to make these deep conversations cool, right? Because that's where, in the great work that you're doing, is we're trying to make those conversations more acceptable. Obviously, you don't need to always have them. I think there's a time and a place where you can have a beer and talk shit and carry on. Like, I think it's still important. We can't take that away from us, but there is also the time where we need to open that communication pathway to your mates to know that, hey, mate, as you mentioned, you put your hand up, I'm struggling.
100%. And that's kind of like where I coined the term the modern bloke, because of it's controlling the conversation, just like this powerful podcast, because it's not someone that's out of the stereotype or the demographic of an average Aussie bloke telling blokes, you have to do this, you've got to do that. It's actually people within the culture, within the community, having the discussions and thinking about what do we want to be known as. I use the term the brand of man. So kind of like, what's the image that you get when you think of man? That's perceived from all different touch points, and that's also growing up. What your brand of man is how you're going to start acting. So for me, early 20s, my brand of man wasn't to talk about emotions or about issues. It was to get drunk or be an idiot and, kind of base level stuff, and banter was just good. And part of kind of with the Modern Bloke and the Man That Can project is that we're controlling the narrative, and we're evolving. We're not flipping culture. We're not changing culture. We're not doing any of that. Beer and banter is still at the forefront. It's still amazing connection. And people get the misconception that emotions and talking about your problems means that when you're having a barbecue on a Saturday afternoon with your mates, that all of a sudden you start breaking down crying and talking about how your life is a mess. And that's not what it is. It's, you still have your banter, you still go there because you need that fix. That's your connection. But then those group of mates should be the ones that you can message and say, hey, mate, do you mind if we grab a coffee on Tuesday, or can I give you a ring Wednesday night? Just need it, things aren't going that great. Or when you're out of that kind of like celebrating time, I've got my mates in a Facebook Messenger chat, and that's where every now and then, it'll be banter, but every now and then someone will say, mate, I'm struggling, or I'm worried about my job, or I'm having issues with that. And I've messaged them saying, mate, I've got a kid on the way, I've got no idea what the hell's going on. And then, you've still got that level of support. So it's not either. It's finding the balance of it. Having that good balance. The result will then be better mental health, better relationships, better society, less suicides, less domestic violence, all that stuff. Got to get the culture right first.
100% agree. And, it's funny, as you said, there's that misconception that even for when I run men's circles, and I know you run your online chats and everything like that as well, there's a huge misconception that only weak, broken men are going to show up on these at the men's circles or the calls. And I can understand it, because I think maybe when you hear men's circle or men's work, you might think, AA meeting or something like that. And the way that I think about it is we're all fucked up in our own way, but we're all strong in our own way as well. And that, we get a new iPhone every year, not because we need it, but because looks awesome. There might be a slightly better camera or the shape's different or whatever. And the same should be how we approach, like, whether it's a men's circle or what you do, or anything that can help us be better as individuals. It's like, maybe I'm challenged in this area, but I also just want to upgrade, right? I'm running on Microsoft 95 at the moment. I want to get up to 2000. Here we go. This is the conversation and maybe the environment that's going to empower me to do so. So I think that whole misconception as well. And I think one of the brilliant things that you're doing, and if the men listening to this go over to your Instagram and just have a read of some of the content, you'll sort of see that it's still very blokey, but it's also very meaningful and empowering to understand that you're not alone, and understand that just through conversation as well, you can, and acknowledging things, you can create a pretty significant change in your life. But I wanted to go back as well. You're saying your mates, like, you have that group chat going on, and all the banter and fun stuff's there. But then the I guess the culture that you've got in that, I guess your mate group, or with the mateship, they feel comfortable opening up. Has that always been the case, or was it something that you guys actively worked on, or did it start because of you maybe going first, or how has that come to? Because it's not. I don't believe it's normal.
Definitely wasn't.
Not normal.
No, definitely wasn't the case. It's a massive reflection for me. So we started it World Cup a couple of years ago, Soccer World Cup, because we were like, bugger it, if we're going to be up at midnight watching the soccer, let's just have some banter. And same thing is, I'm guilty. People go, if you got on showing up or everything, how come you're doing this wrong thing? And I'm like, because of it's an ingrained thing that we're trying to change. But there was it was just a typical culture. Like, I'm not bagging at my mates. I'm like, it's just exactly what we're in. But just then, from constantly being vulnerable, all of them, and then I think, and this is the biggest thing, is them seeing other blokes being vulnerable means that they feel more comfortable being vulnerable when they to, or when they need to. And it kind of evolved over time because of, I guess, they were a little less aware of it, or we all were a little less aware of it, but then it started becoming the norm, because instead of having, only 5% about talking about issues, it became every couple of weeks someone was at least saying, I'm struggling with this, or I'm not necessarily that bad, but just, work's stressing me out, or guys, the kids are sick, so I won't be able to chat for a bit. And it just became more and more of it because of people were actually doing it. Now it's a little bit more common, but I often think back 2-3 years ago, I'm like, this is definitely a different conversations that we're having.
That's incredible, man. I think that's, pat yourself on the back for that. But I also, in my sort of journey, I didn't have, I guess I was at a different point where I wasn't confident in myself, or even certain in myself enough to know that's what I wanted or needed. And I know there's a lot of blokes who are maybe in that point, but for those who are listening and are at that point, maybe, and, because I always talk about how I changed my whole circle, and now I'm going back, working on rebuilding those relationships, probably, at the point where you were with your mates. And I think that's a cool thing to take away, to know that if you are feeling certain and confident in yourself, and, I don't think anyone's better than anyone else in regards to, we just all want different things and have different priorities at any point in time. So if you're prepared to put in the effort like you did, Sean, and show up, be vulnerable, and sort of nurture those relationships to the point where everyone sort of gets invested in it, is an incredible, that's fucking mateship right there. That's what you want.
Yeah, well, they were, I've known them since I was 7 type thing, and I'm 36 now. So, I went to school and footy, and one of the things is that, we do, we know we're there for each other. So it's not often that we, need to bring stuff up, thankfully. But, they were the ones that I messaged with my divorce, and they were the ones that got around me. But also, like, we this weekend, we're the end of our 10-week tipping competition for the races. Yeah. Having a big catch-up type thing. So, there's still 99% of it is good banter. But then there's, I think as well, we learnt where the lines are. Yeah. And I think we learnt respect from the lines. And I guess the biggest reflection from then in the early 20s was that if someone said, actually, that's too far. And I had it one time with the divorce where someone, made a bit of banter about it. And I said, actually, it's a little bit too raw still.
Yeah.
And that's, and they're like, oh, shit, okay, cool. Sorry, we won't go there again until you're ready for it, rather than maybe then probably 10, 15 years ago, it would have been a bit more of a, harden up, toughen up, like, don't be a sook, just get over it. And I'm like, that's the big change that I think it's that empathy and that connection and that respect that has been the biggest change.
Fucking oath, mate. I think that's incredible because, I'm pretty sure you would have seen the whole thing in the AFL where they're, slapping each other's bums and all that sort of stuff. And, obviously coming from a sporting background, I do that all the time. And obviously, as you just sort of touched on, I think it's easy for people to criticize on the outside and because of our own perspectives and views on the world, which is, I understand that and that's fine. But when you grow up in that environment and you as a professional athlete, you spend a lot of time with these blokes, and there's obviously, I would imagine, boundaries enforced there as well. Like they're 100%, if you inappropriately touch someone or if you're getting sick of getting your ass slapped, you would say so. You'd say, hey, mate, I'm sick of having your handprint on my ass. Like, just stop it, and they'd be all right with it. But most of it, I love getting an ass slapped. Like, it's awesome when you might have just done a hectic workout together, or you've overcome some hurdle together, or been through some experience together, and it's just like, that's affection to me. And I know some people are going to disagree, some people will agree, but I don't feel we need to keep trying to get everyone to abide by a certain set of rules, because you yourself and your mates, right, you've enforced your boundaries that work for you guys and the relationship that you guys have. Whereas that would work completely differently for another circle of men. But I think what we sort of ties back to that you and your mates have done really well is you've taken ownership. You have built up the relationship where you can openly talk about these things. And then you just, keep revising things if, that line gets stepped over, which is going to happen from time.
You bring up a great point, and this is why I kind of love discussion. And I think that nothing's black and white; everything is grey and it individual. And as you said about the arse slapping is a classical one, and that's where I think we need to have the culture of blokes to have that willing to understand the boundaries. That, and ironic, it's that consent and that respect, and rather than just get rid of it, or it's not one or the other. It's not then, because if you're then along the lines of no ass slapping in sport because of a couple of people don't like it, then you get the ones that aren't as deep thinkers or the emotionally intelligent and a little bit more base level emotional that get defensive, and then are like, I'm going to slap more asses now. And you go, cool, this isn't how we get a solution, guys. We need to start talking to, and then, whereas I'm like, kick, I love it because of, you kick a goal in footy, get an ass slap, and you just know that, great, that's approval. I've done something, I'm getting appreciated for it. And then just bringing in, if someone then doesn't feel comfortable with that, you respect that and you go, cool. And you find that line with the different people rather than the old, go on, mate, don't be a wuss, or don't be a, derogatory words and stuff. We do I've done some workshops with some sporting clubs, and one of the things that I have is a task that we do, which is bring in, keep, and fuck off. When you actually have a discussion in culture, what's something that we want to bring in? What's something that we don't do as guys that we actually should bring in? Then what's something that we do well that we should keep? And then what's something that we do that we should probably fuck off? And what I find is when you have that conversation and it has everyone engaged, you end up getting some great, not only answers, but then you've got engagement. People are going, I've made this decision to fuck off binge drinking, so I'm more invested in this, rather than some government ad on TV told us that we should stop doing something. I'm like, that's never going to work. Yeah.
100%. It would get the buy-in of people who are actually in that environment, and obviously you're doing it for a bigger reason than just binge drinking. It as you mentioned, it may lead to the success of a sporting club or whatever it is. But no one likes being told what to do. But if you get the opportunity, and that's great leadership, right? Rather than even the coach just coming and saying, "Hey, no one's drinking this season." If you get the buy-in from all the team and they understand why, and everyone's going, "Yeah, I'm committed to that," you get the commitment. And it's interesting that people, I think it's the perfect point you make, that things are grey, and it's only going to become murkier and more grey because, one of the things that I really liked about that Social Dilemma Netflix film was obviously, we have access to more people viewing us and seeing us than ever before in human history, which is crazy, but it's also brilliant, right? Because you can share a powerful message if you've got one to share. And if you're looking for support and understanding of things, you can find it. But what it also opens us up to is millions of different ways of living and lived experiences and beliefs that chop you down. And if we go back to thinking back in the tribal times, you only had a community of, say, 100 and 150 max. And generally, if you're in your little ecosystem, everyone had the same beliefs. That's why you hang out together. It's the same with now, like the people that in my inner circle, my mates, we have very similar beliefs. I value what they, everything they say to me and what they think and everything they're going through. But then there's people on social media who try to give you their opinion, which, granted, I'm always open to opinion, but at the same time, I don't care. Like it's because I understand that maybe they don't view it through the same lens that I do.
Yeah.
And if it's not going to be a proactive conversation, similar like what we're having here, if it's just you want to beat me down and tell me that I'm wrong, I don't care. But if you're open to having a conversation, I'm definitely open to it, because I know, one, I might have my opinion changed, awesome, or two, you may have yours changed, or three, we just mutually disagree, which is fine. But I think as it gets into this,
I think even I think it's not even you might even get your opinion changed. It's just your opinion might evolve.
Yeah.
And you might come a little bit together. I know, like, I have a lot of discussions with different groups of people on different topics, and that's why I think the modern bloke or bloke should get a voice of stuff. I've always been, I'm not afraid of controversy or controversial topics, but often I think if you're doing it for working together, trying to understand each other, I'm massive on, I want to understand your point of view. I may not agree with it, but I want to understand it and give you respect that that's what you believe. But also, I might even think it's a correct view. I just don't think it's a correct solution, or that's not the one that I want to go with.
Yeah. And you're entitled to do that as well. Like, I think it's important, especially for those who are listening, we need to respect your decision to go with whatever viewpoint, right? We see it in politics, but there's always a divide, because we're all entitled to our opinion, and your opinion is 100% correct for you, but it doesn't mean we need to bash and belittle everyone else. There's no progress, and there's no chance of progress while that's happening at all. So everything that you said around seeking to understand and, just even evolving your opinions is so important. So I think for a lot of the blokes that are listening to this, like take that and practice that approach, right? It's not, I don't nail it all the time. There's moments where I get caught up in the heat of the moment, and the rest is history, but that's just normal. But it's something that we need to be, I guess, conscious of and intentional around improving. But one of the other sort of, actually, I just wrote down here, like, you said you love getting into controversial topics. What's one of the most controversial discussions or topics you've had recently?
Oh, there's a lot. I think I'll give you an example of where talking about and being able to explain and have those discussions has worked well, and I'm actually about to experience it. My viewpoint from a guy point of view is, and if you don't have the discussions and you can go down that as just like the rabbit hole that you were talking about with social dilemma type thing. And that's where I think with guys, if that happens in a guy's circle, that's where you get kind of the negative or toxic men's rights activist type things if they're not engaging with everything. But one of them was around paternity leave. So I had a discussion a couple of years ago around, I think that society needs to give guys more paternity leave. And without the person I was talking to, without them asking why or asking my opinion or to elaborate or any background or anything like that, they straight away went into, you only want that because of you're a men's rights activist. You only want that because of equality and you're just trying to become equality. And was really like at me about it. And my thing was that, because I think on a broader scale, is it's not about if women get it, men should get it. My thing was, I want equality. And if I'm only able to take 3 weeks paid leave as a dad, but my partner gets a year, then that's a year out of work versus 3 weeks. For me, my view is to be able to get women into work and support them, then we need to be able to give men the ability to take the time off to look after the kid. And that way you're going to get women into the workforce, their skills kept going, they're not out for as much, and then they can progress a lot more. You've also then going to have guys that instead of taking 3 weeks are going to take 6 months off, and then it's going to even out the playing field. So you're going to have more equality in the workforce. And once I kind of explained that my reasoning wasn't just because of, if women get it, I want men to get it, but it was actually a male point of view for equality, then we agreed with it. And that's the discussions that people need to have.
100%. I think it's also, extremely important from that, just from the bonding side of things with children. Like men, from what I've seen, it's like if, they don't bond as well with the children, you almost feel excluded from what, mates that I've spoken to have gone through that. And it's not intentional. It just happens because if the mum's with the baby 90% of the time and the husband's out working, the father's out working, it's like you don't get that time. So I think, adding that's an extreme, and you're about to experience that, which is exciting.
And that's the social side of it. So that the example that I gave was more of the practical side of it.
Yeah.
And I think what you've just said hits the nail on the head of kind of like where the modern bloke fits, and the things that I love having the discussion is around. Okay, that's the practical. The social side is that by giving men more parental leave, that they bond with their children, which means that they're going to be, hopefully better fathers over, in the long run.
Yeah.
They're going to be more engaged fathers. They're going to be more capable fathers. They're going to feel more, I'm the parent, and so I need to do a lot of this stuff. Then they're going to need, they learn more of the domestic duties and everything like that. And it's more of, I'm a masculine father, so I want to be making sure the house is clean. I want to make sure that everything's right, and that I want to look support my family. So it's still a masculine thing to do, but also you then get more respect in the relationship. Which it's just going to benefit society. The more that kind of dads and guys are going into that caregiving or that opening up that that 10-20% of that feminine side of it, you're just going to get a better society.
100%. I think it also leads into that. One of your posts was like, we need to be challenging boys to grow into men. And I think that also leads into challenging men to step up and grow into men, redefining what that is.
Massive.
But do you want to sort of touch on that, like why you believe that's important? What's your sort of thoughts on how we can go about doing that, or everyone sort of playing their part in that? And I guess what it actually means, right? Because there's going to be a lot of potentially some people listening to this going, fuck no, don't do that. That's what we've been doing for generations. And look how we've turned out. And I understand, obviously, there's a different meaning when it's coming from you. So I'd love to explore that a bit more.
Well, as you said, the meaning and my love is analyzing culture over generations. I did it at university, so that's what I can't get out of my head. And my thing is that probably our grandparents' generation, I'll give you the example. My granddad, amazing guy, just an absolute gentleman, but he's humble. And that was great when he was growing up. The gentleman, you know, the modern bloke, or the good bloke is the humble bloke. However, by doing that, the result for the next generation is that the people that weren't gentlemen, the people that were toxic, for a better use of the word, is they were the vocal ones.
Yep.
So he would sit back and love his wife, but growing up, you probably get the ones that are going, all the misogynistic shit. And then you have a generation raised that's only hearing the misogynistic shit. What's that generation going to be doing? They're just going to be misogynistic, or kind of like, have that, that's kind of like how it flows in over here. Whereas the Man That Can project, the Modern Bloke, if we're actively vocalizing what it means to be a man, then we're able to be impress on young blokes growing up, or other blokes that are, our age or even older, that just go, I don't know what it means to be a man. Where am I going to go get information? And if we're not talking, then the only information, that social dilemma, the only information they're going to get is the bad stuff. So you need to have, be a man. There's nothing wrong with that. It's what that means. It's used to be, the pressure, be a man and don't talk, whereas it's be a man and talk, be a man and understand that talking about your emotions is fixing them. It's actually addressing them, not ignoring them. Be a man and be kind. Be a man and be empathetic. That's what we need to control, what the brand or what the Modern Bloke stands for, or, and in terms of then, we need to empower men and boys. I think we've lost a generation, and I talk about this, and this is one of the ones that can be controversial, but it can't, but I don't think it is our generation had raising powerful women. We hadn't ever kind of done it, so it was needed, and we needed to do that. I think we dropped the ball on raising powerful men and capable, so empowering boys as well. And I think then you've got a generation where they probably weren't challenged, probably weren't supported, probably weren't empowered, and now they're a little bit lost. That loss then happens to go, okay, cool, I'm mid-30s, lost, don't know what I'm doing, no real purpose. What am I going to do? Going to drink, going to do drugs, going to not really have any motivation, don't have any capability. And then that has its whole issues of mental health and everything. Whereas if we're raising and empowering boys and men to have purpose, to do the right thing, to actually achieve and know that they can be anything that they want to be, and challenge them because they love being challenged, you're just going to build capable blokes that aren't, I say, idle hands are the devil's play tool. So you're going to have blokes that have got jobs. They're going to have careers. They're going to have purpose. They're going to build families. They're going to want to build a better society rather than just being bored and potentially wasting away. Or, they're the ones that then go into kind of gangs and stuff. They're susceptible to it because they're just idle. They're not challenged.
100%. It's such an important thing, and I think you explained that extremely well. So for everyone listening around that now has a better understanding of where that sort of came from. I couldn't agree more, and I also agree as men, we need to be continually challenged to have a look at ourselves, right? Even myself included, yourself included, we're not perfect, and every day I'm open to being challenged to be better. Like that's what as you mentioned, we need to seek out, because otherwise you just lay there idle and, self-entitlement and a whole heap of stuff can come through, and it's not beneficial to ourselves, to our partners, to our families, to the, the environment that we're involved in. So I think it comes back to as well, you speak about having those controversial conversations, but even having those tough conversations with mates when, they may be behaving in a way that maybe doesn't align with your values or the group's values, is pulling them up on that, because it's very easy to sit back and go, oh, I don't want to have that conversation. I'll just let them get away from it. But we need to be held to a higher standard. And sometimes we aren't aware of the way that we're behaving is subpar. Like sometimes you just got the blinders on and you're going off. So it's important to, as individuals, look out for your mates and look out for those people that you care for and hold them to a higher standard, because that's one of the things that they'll love about you as an individual as well, which is very exciting. I guess before we sort of wrap up, would love to hear your view of men and women in society. I know we've got a few great responses and insight out of you, but I'd love to get a better understanding of what that means for you and what that looks like.
Yeah, so I think, like what we said, instead of polarizing views or considering it, there's no gender war or anything like that, we need to work anything out together. And one of the things that I love about the Modern Bloke is it has so many female followers. And one of the reasons that when I was initially starting the Modern Bloke, I was talking to my fiance now, who's very capable, independent, strong woman that I love about her. And it was around International Women's Day, and I was just like, whenever I see all the events, they're all with women in there, which is fine. But I go, that doesn't give a good message that men aren't supportive, or it makes them maybe feel like they're doing it themselves. Whereas if she was ever getting an award for International Women's Day, I'd want to be there. I'd want to be in the background clapping her and supporting her. But I also think that would be more of a powerful image and a powerful message that they're not doing it alone. I think it's a good kind of reflection of how I think society should have with any discussions, any topics. We should be working on it together and let's try to learn from each other's sides and get empathy. And I think that doesn't happen as much. I know I have some great discussions with some very amazing women on the page, and especially single, so mums with raising boys, or people through relationship issues asking about, how do I help guys? My partner is having an issue. How do I help them? And that they need to be involved in these mental health discussions and around men, because we are, in society, we are a partnership. And I think that's been lost. There's too much division and not enough unity. So I think, yeah.
Do you think we focus too much on all the poor traits around men and the ones around like what's not working so much that we never really highlight and put up on a pedestal what works well and what is incredible? We see these relationships on, like the Notebook and stuff, which is so far-fetched, but we don't see things like you mentioned where the husband's in the crowd supporting his wife for achieving some great things. We never see that. And I think those are the things that we need to highlight.
Yeah, so 100%, and that's part of that brand of man is with any man. I say boys, but with any man, you can't be what you can't see. So if we're seeing, and footballers are a classic example for that, where years ago, and actually not that many years ago, but you only hear about footballers when they fucked up. Yep. Right? And then that's what you had the image of for a footballer. And then if you were kind of coming up in the being a young footballer and stuff, you kind of think, cool, that's my image and identity. That's what I have to be like. What I'm loving now is there's such a change where you're seeing so many professional sports people that are proud of their partners, that are loving and doting over their partners and their kids, like, running through banners and holding the cup up with their kids and thanking their partners. And the more we show that, those positive male role models, the more we show blokes what it is to be a good bloke. And we respond positively to that. And then they say, okay, well, when the football player was doing this bad thing, it was negative, and women were saying that's bad, and other men were saying, shit, that's not something that I would want to do. But then when we see a guy that's, doting over his wife and his kids and doing the right thing for his family, then you start going, and that's positively well received. That's what you're going to start getting more people, more guys in society going towards. And women are going to go, that's the type of guy that I want. Guys are capable of doing that. So I'm going to hold out for and communicate that that's the type of guy that I want. And then guys will then, we're guys, we want to impress the women. So that's what we'll start doing, so impresses the girls.
I think even on that, like one of the things that and you probably have this conversation a fair bit as well, is that when men do step up to the plate and they want to start creating change or showing up differently in their relationship, it almost freaks their partner out to the point where they don't know how to respond or react, and they almost unintentionally shut them down. And they're both going, what? I just did everything I thought every girl ever wanted, but because the partner in this situation is so used to you showing up in a certain way, it takes adjustment with all things. So I think, as you were touching on there, like having the conversation, but also highlighting it allows both parties to see that it's possible. And I think also, hearing your story and sharing mine, and everyone who steps up and shares theirs, it also shows people that you can change quickly. It doesn't need to be a 10-year thing. Like, it's a decision. And if we can learn to accept that and support that and back that, like, it's only going to be beneficial to individuals and to partnerships, relationships moving forward, which is very, very exciting. But I think
yeah.
Sorry, you go.
No, I was going to say, maybe especially for the listeners, and you mentioned that the 10-year thing, and is that the biggest hurdle is that growth and fixed mindset. And I think a lot of guys, they said, we're not perfect. We've both got a lot more work to do, and we do it every day. But a lot of guys just need to flick that fixed mindset of what my world is reality to I'm constantly learning and I need to grow. And actually, I need to be aware that some of my actions could be shit, and I may need to relearn stuff. And then the empathy from the women or from guys, anyone in society, to go, you know what, I'm going to give them a chance to relearn. I'm not going to hang up on what they've done. And if you kind of go, look, I don't know that then, I want to change. Don't hang up on what I've then done. Just reteach me. And there's nothing wrong with realizing that, shit, I never got taught this skill of talking my emotions to my partner. So there's nothing wrong with sitting down with your partner and going, I want to change, but I'm going to be clunky at the start, and just work with me. Don't judge me for what I'm not doing or what I've done wrong in the past.
100%. And would that tie in for you at the start? Obviously, you mentioned doing the work, right? And that work for you, would that sort of be some of the processes that you went through to, do the work as such, or what does that look like for you? Just so that for the listeners out there, they can get an idea of maybe some steps to take to do the work and become a better version of themselves.
Yeah, so a lot of it was around thinking, and that's where, as you said, the content of the Modern Bloke, it's not about telling anyone what they're doing. It's about giving an idea and having that thinking, and you've got to, and then just giving yourself freedom and empathy to go, I'm able to challenge my norms. And if I did something wrong, and I'm going to look at this objectively, I'm going to re-look at my values, I'm going to re-look at what I'm doing, and kind of go, if the answer is I'm doing something wrong, I'm not going to feel guilty for that. I'm not going to put myself down for that. Because as soon as I start doing that, I get to shut myself off and ignore it. So part of doing the work is looking for your fixed mindset, growth mindset of just allowing yourself to be wrong, and allowing yourself to realize that, shit, maybe I did the wrong thing, or I've been doing the wrong thing, or the way I've been going about it isn't working. And then actively looking for ways to do what you want to be, who you want to be, and do what you want to do. And that could be listening to podcasts. It can be doing a lot of reading. It can be asking questions to your partner. How would you like me to communicate? How would you like me to do that? Or asking your friends, asking people that do what you want to do. How do you do that? It could be that a mate that's got a great father, and you don't know how to connect, with your kids, or you're worried about it, asking, mate, look, and it's going to be bad for the ego.
Yeah.
And guys aren't great at doing it, but you've got to be vulnerable and just ask for it.
100%.
Be prepared to learn.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So finally, one last question, and you pretty much gave an awesome answer earlier, and I was going to tie that in, but we'll ask you again. I ask everyone at the end of an episode what their definition of being a man is, or being a bloke, and in your words, what does that look like or sound like for you?
And I listened to your podcast and I was like, well, what would I say to this? And to me, it's acting your true self. You've got to do the work to find out what your true self is. But you've got to, it's being your true self. And I think it's understanding your masculine environment and realizing that growth is sorting shit out. Growth is masculine, and continually growing is and improving and wanting to improve yourself, those around you, and society by living to your values.
Awesome, mate. That's a great definition. And I you probably heard me say it in everyone. I always love to get people's perspective on it because, as mentioned earlier, there's so many different people and ways that we can relate to. So I think it's important for us as men to understand that there is no one size fits all, even though there's that generic stereotype that we've all been pushed into believing and acting and thinking in that way. It's not necessarily right. That's why a lot of us feel out of alignment or unfulfilled, or end up in situations we don't want to be in. So I think it's important to understand that we have more control over who we want to be in the life that we want to create and how we get to show up based on, what we want for our life and what we, believe is acceptable and going to add value to ourselves and the world around us. But Sean, thanks so much for coming on to join us, mate. I've had an awesome time and I could probably chat to you for a few hours. I know so the gents can find you at the Modern Bloke on Instagram, and there's a website, and then also you run Blokes and Brews. So do you want to quickly give a recap of both of those and where everyone can find you there?
Yeah, perfect. Both are easiest on Instagram. With it, the Modern Bloke is the overarching, just trying to get people thinking more and feeling more, and just kind of engaging and being more capable around their emotions, mental health, and just in regards to their life. And then Blokes and Brews is just a little workshop that I do at breweries. The idea is pretty much this conversation is it's more for just setting up on a Blokes and Brews night at a brewery is where you can go chat to some blokes about exactly what we've been talking about, just ideas, rather than having it, you still have your Saturday nights at the pub, or whatever you want to do with the boys and stuff. But it's just workshops talking exactly what we've just spoken about in a place that they feel comfortable, not in some AA meeting style place. Quality,
mate. Awesome. So once again, thanks so much, and I'll attach all your links to the show notes so everyone can click and find if they haven't already scrolled through Instagram while listening to this. Once again, mate, appreciate your time and look forward to having another yarn soon.
Gents, thanks again for tuning into that episode. There were a heap of nuggets and, perspectives and even tools and resources, mentioning podcasts, books, and a few things like that you can sink your teeth into, start creating some change for yourself. Another option there available for you guys who aren't a part of the free Facebook group for the Man That Can project. Jump on Facebook now, find searching groups, search the Man That Can project, and click join there. I'd love to see you in there. It's an incredible group of men. We've got over 600 blokes in there now from, once again, all around the world. And it's an area where we talk more in depth about this, and you guys can actually get involved in the conversation. So look forward to seeing you guys in the Facebook group, and then being able to provide as much value for you guys as possible to help you take your life to that next level. Once again, thank you. And if you got value from this episode, please, please, please share it with someone that will get value, one of your mates or brother, father, someone in your life that you care about that would benefit greatly from listening to this. Once again, guys, have a great evening and I look forward to sharing another episode with you guys soon. Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachlan Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.